Well, let's move on to the subject of the Fixated Threat Assessment Centre. And this is an organisation that UK Column was talking about well over 10 years ago because we regarded it as so dangerous. Why am I talking about it today? Because I've been stunned to find out that this unit, which says it protects people with high profile in the public domain, has been getting involved with child cases. But let's just have a look at the basics. This is part of the website. The Fixated Threat Assessment Centre diverts into treatment mentally ill people who stalk, harass or threaten public figures. By doing so, it provides them with the care they need and prevents harm to those around them. When this unit was set up, it was for the royal family and people with a high public profile, but the royal family seems to have disappeared off this. But it gives more. It says it's the first joint NHS police unit in the UK. Its purpose is to assess and manage the risk from lone individuals who harass, stalk or threaten public figures. FTAC helps such people get the care they need and decreases any risk they might pose. It's a unit within the Met Police, it's national remit. And then if we just have a look at this little note down the bottom, the site's operated by what it says is the Fixated Research Group, and is independent from the Metropolitan Police Service and NHS provider organisations. So one has to ask how this thing works, but let's just look at the darkness of the website. Now, this is psychiatrists getting involved supposedly in helping people, but the whole website is unbelievably dark. So here's the Fixated Research Group. This is about what they say about themselves. Main risk to elected politicians. So if you think you're going to get too close and challenge your politician too regularly, you need to be careful because this unit is going to be on you. It's working in Western countries. The majority of fixated loners are mentally ill. Well, that's interesting. Who says that? Different sorts of risks are associated. And then it says, other than violence, which is rare, risks which need to be assessed comprise persistence, escalation and disruption, and attention to inappropriate communication and approaches to public figures. So this is getting very close to anybody who dare stands up to their MP. But if we have a look at some of the people involved, it gets more fascinating because we're into Australians. So we've got a Paul E. Mullin, Professor of Monash University, Melbourne, and visiting Professor of the Institute of Psychiatry, London. We've got a Michelle Path, Consultant Forensic Psychiatrist and Community Forensic Mental Health Service in Brisbane, Australia. So how do they fit into the legal system or a system of accountability in UK? Well, it's very difficult to tell. We've got more. This one is David James. So he's a senior lecturer in forensic psychiatry, University College London. We've got Reid Meloy here from San Diego School of Medicine. So we've got another American. We've got Frank Farnham. He's from the North London Forensic Service. And if we just do the last one, the associates, we've got an American here from the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. So all these people monitoring the UK public to see what they're doing and if they're a threat. Now, if we go back to about 2009, Grant Shapps did ask some questions in Parliament. He asked about the floor area of office space. He asked here about how many individuals detained by the Fixated Threat Assessment Centre had subsequently been given custodial sentences. You can freeze the screen to see the answers to this, but there's quite a lot of questions. He's talking about the average length of time that an individual was examined by a registered medical practitioner. And he goes on to ask the Secretary of State for the Home Department on how many occasions Fixated Threat Assessment Centre has made use of police powers. And over here, he's talking about how many police officers, psychiatric nurses, psychiatrists and psychologists are employed. 10 police officers, 3 forensic community mental health nurses, 0.8 of a whole-time equivalent consultant psychiatrist, and 0.5 of a whole-time equivalent psychologist. And if we just move the arrow, if it will go down here. And what are the running costs? Well, it's a cool £507 million.
No, that's I
beg your pardon. £1,000. So £500,000, get it right, in order to run this unit, but nobody's too sure about what it does. This is an actual email that somebody received from their GP, the GP having been triggered by an email from FTAC saying they were worried about the particular person. This is really quite scary because this arrived out of the blue for the individual concerned. Now, back in 2013, we were warning that the network that Theresa May had set up, and in this network, the Fixated Threat Assessment Centre was one of the big ones we picked up. We warned what was coming. We asked if she was the most dangerous woman in politics.
And she was Home Secretary at that time.
Correct. And we described this as a British gulag. So we've started off the news and we're talking about an East German Stasi system. UK column warning back in 2013 what was going on here. And if we put some of the pieces, if we can get this to move on, if we put some of this in a network, which we did at the time, we were watching what was happening to free speech. The banks had funded Common Purpose. Common Purpose kick-started the Media Standards Trust. This produced Hacked Off and Full Fact, which of course are now censoring media. A lot of this was coming in with EU controls, but we also had the Leveson inquiry, which was clearly about control of the media. At the same time, Ken Clarke was talking about more secrecy in the courts. We had the Association of Chief Police Officers saying that people arrested by the police would not be named. And then we had that leading into the Fixated Threat Assessment. And we also had another secretive organisation called MAPPA, which was tracking down people in custody and was also working to have mothers sectioned or to assist in children being stolen by the state. So we warned in 2013 that the state was controlling press. And part of our comments at that time was on Mr. Pickles, and he had this to say, which I think is very significant. We are going to shake up the balance of power in this country. We're going to change the nature of the Constitution. Be in no doubt about our commitment to localism. I know I look like an unlikely revolutionary, but the revolution starts here. And the first question I'm going to ask is the localism, is that now 15-minute cities, do you think?
Indeed.
It could be. But essentially, FTAC is a very dark unit. We really don't understand how it works. How is it accountable to the public? But this unit can effectively have any member of the public sectioned or at least examined by a psychiatrist or psychologist simply because they have dared to challenge an MP or to speak out about somebody with a high public profile. It's incredibly sinister.
Okay, let's move on.